back again, and tonight we are going to be talking about fats that worsen diabetes. So it's an exciting lecture, but before we get into that, let's talk about how you're doing. Anyone have, let's see, has anyone noticed blood pressures trending down? Okay, one, two, three, four. Okay, very good. It's a great sign. One of the first signs that you're reducing your insulin resistance is blood pressure trending down. How about blood sugars? Anyone notice blood sugars trending down? Yes. Oh, yeah. We have hands all over the room. Yes. Very good. Absolutely. Because that's what we're here for, right? Okay, now just understand that the first blood sugar that's going to trend down is going to be your fasting sugar in the morning. When you eat a meal, usually your blood sugar is going to spike afterwards. And if you have diabetes, it'll probably be 180, 250 or something like that, It'll be above 180 typically if you have diabetes. So we'd like to see it below 140. We'd like to see it below 140. That's going to be the last number that comes into line. But don't stop doing what you're doing. You need to keep your fiber levels up 50 grams or more for the rest of your life, because that's going to keep you from having diabetes. And it's a way of eating that it wins. It's just good. Okay, how many people met their weight loss goal? Any hands here? Okay. Okay, did we have other people that lost weight? Yeah. Okay. Not as much as you wanted. Okay, let's see. We are on, this is our fourth meeting, so we've been at it for 3 weeks. Duration of 3 weeks so far. The first week I said you could gain 2 pounds, and then what I like to see is losing 1 to 2 pounds a week. 1 to 2 pounds a week. So that would put us back, if you have gained 1 pound or less since the program began. How many people have gained 1 pound or less? You've gained less than 1 pound? Everyone's gained more than 1 pound? Did I say that wrong?
You said it wrong. You made it.
You've gained 1 ounce since last week. Well, congratulations, sister. Same as last week. Okay, here's what I'm wanting to say. If you have gained 1 pound, no more than 1 pound since the program began. If you have gained no more than 1 pound since the program began. How many people are in that category?
It means they've
either lost
or they've lost.
Or you've either less than 1 pound or you've lost weight. Now look at the hands around the room. How many people have lost? Yeah. Okay? If you've gained no more than 1 pound, then you're right on target for where I want you at this point in the game. Now by next week, we need to be back to 0. Okay? And then continue trending down. Because usually what happens is when people make a lifestyle change, they will start gaining, they'll gain a couple pounds. But if they're watching what they eat, then they'll begin trending down from there. So yeah, you guys are doing well. So let me encourage you, because that's what we need to be doing. Now, how many people have met their fiber goals? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very good. Give yourself a hand. You deserve it. Because that's a lot of work. How many people are having trouble eating 40 grams of fiber a day? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, guess what? Next week we're going to 50.
Remember, you need to eat your fiber foods first. Start with the fiber foods and let it push out some of the other things. If you get too full, make sure you're eating the fiber foods first.
Okay, that's the way to do it, actually. People come to me all the time and they say, well, I just can't eat this much food. Well, I don't care if you add other foods in, but what I really do care about is that you eat your fiber foods first. Actually, the people, they took two groups of people, and I think I told about this once, but it bears repeating. They took two groups of people. They fed them exactly the same foods, high fiber foods. One group, they said, we want you to eat your fiber foods with your meal. The other group, they said, we want you to eat your fiber foods at the beginning of the meal. And those that ate their fiber foods at the beginning of the meal dropped their after-meal blood sugar by 25%. Guys, if I could just simply package that in a pill, I would be a very wealthy man, because the doctors would have you all, everybody, taking them and enriching my pocket, okay? So, but I can't do that. But I can tell you about it. Now you have it for free, but you have to apply it for it to do you any good. So anyway, good stuff.
Okay, part of the thing, some of you said you're not reaching your goals. Are you making your goals realistic? Are you making them too high so that it makes it real hard to attain? That's part of doing a SMART goal, is you want it to be attainable. Like, if you want to do your 40 grams of fiber, maybe you're struggling to get it 7 days a week. Well, how about if you do your 40 grams of fiber, or 50 this week, 5 days a week? Would that be more attainable for you? Okay, think about it when you set your goals today. Try to make them attainable. Okay, I have in my hand an extra ticket. And I would like all of you to turn to page 11 in your book. Part of what you do every week is you set your goals, and then you need to evaluate at the end of the day, have I met my goal? Have I met my water goal, my fiber goal? Did I create a new recipe? So is there anybody, is that this time or last time? You have your sheet for this? Okay. Anybody, blank, 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 blank. Okay, we have one person that filled out their sheet. And what that means, I'm going to hold it up. They can't read it. What that means is she looked at her goal for every day. Did I meet it? There are some yeses and there are some no's. And that's okay. We don't mind if it says no, because what we want is that you're looking at it, okay? And that helps to keep it in mind. So she gets an extra chance
at winning something.
At winning something. All right, so you should have 2 tickets.
All right, give her a hand. I don't know if she'll win anything, but she just doubled her chance. So if you want to double your chance. Guys, what she's saying is really important, because when you go over that list, it's just setting it in your subconscious mind. It's just like the little angel on the shoulder that's saying, John, be careful, buddy. There's no fiber in that. There's no fiber in that food. You're trying to reverse your diabetes. Now, can you make a better high fiber choice? That's what the little angel's whispering in your ear. And John says, oh, thank you, Lord. I needed that. Now he goes out and he makes a wiser choice. So there you go. Okay. Good.
Repeat what he's saying. So
he's planning his menu when he goes shopping. He's planning what he's going to eat, and he buys the stuff that he's going to eat that week. And okay. So he's given some thought to the meal. But typically, if you will review, your goals like this on a regular basis, it helps you have a much higher chance of achieving those goals. So we would like to see you do that. Now, as we go on, it shall be, it helps if I turn this on. That makes it work. Yes. It shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings, that ye eat neither fat nor blood. Now, why did God put that in the Bible? You'll understand about halfway through this program why that might have been put in there. So I'm not going to dwell on that right now, but just keep that in mind. In the meantime, I want you to remember that this program is for educational purposes only. Don't do anything unless you've talked to your doctor about it. Keep your doctor informed when you have low blood sugars and that kind of thing. If your blood pressures get out of line, etc., you need to let them know. Give the office a call. Sometimes the nurse will take the call or she'll call you back and you can just let her know. If it's a parameter that the doctor's concerned about, then oftentimes he will tell her, have him come on in. I want to talk to him. Or have her come on in. We need to adjust medications or something like that. So you will get through to the doctor one way or another, and I encourage you to do that. Now, at the conclusion of this lecture, you should be able to describe the relationship between obesity and the diabetes pandemic. And you should be able to identify the fats that make diabetes worse and recognize which fats make better substitutions for those bad fats, and then state the effect of high-fat consumption on insulin resistance, and also name a macronutrient that the body prefers to burn instead of fats. So, before we go any further, just indulge me once more, and I'd like to pray for you. Heavenly Father, I thank you for each person that's here tonight, and I thank you for the lowered blood pressures and the lowered blood sugars, and I thank you for those that are working so diligently to meet the fiber goals, and I pray that you will be with them, give them additional information tonight that they can apply in their own home to help reverse this terrible disease before it takes their life, and thank you for hearing my prayer in their behalf. In Jesus' name, amen.
Is it not coming? Okay. When Inez learned that she had diabetes, and actually her family, her mother had it and her sister had it, her sister passed away from diabetes, and she was very concerned, and so she said, I'm going to start doing something about it. So she started reading and learning, doing all that she could. Her beginning A1C was 12.2 when she was first diagnosed. And so as she set about to lose weight, doing whatever she could, she had not come to our program, but these are just things she learned on her own. She lost 35 pounds right away. And she was so excited. Her A1C went down to 7.8, but she was determined that she could do even better. Then she learned about our program that was coming to her community, so she attended. And she was a very busy lady. She kept her grandchildren. And so as she learned these things, she said, how in the world am I going to do this? How am I going to have time for walking after meals and for burst training and for cooking better and getting my fiber? And back then, we didn't stress chia seeds as much as we encourage you to use them now. But anyway, so she started trying, but she would do her laundry, and she would put it back on the bed. And then after she ate, she would go and she would get a garment, and she would walk down the hallway folding her garment, and she would go back, lay it down, pick up another one. And so she double tasks there in order to get her walking in and to get her work done. So she went through, she did great. She was so excited. We didn't hear her say much, though. She was very quiet. But at the end, she was off of her blood pressure medication. She was off of her diabetes medications. She had a 70-pound weight loss, and her ending A1C was 5.8. She was so excited. Now she had the tools. She knew what she needed to do. Like I was telling someone a minute ago, the goal, you don't get a diagnosis of prediabetes until your A1C gets up to 5.8. Diabetes diagnosis is when your A1C is 6.5. But what we know now is that eye damage begins when the A1C is 5.2. So especially for those of us that are not on insulin, if you're on insulin, work to get off the insulin, work with your physician if you can, have the healing so that you are able to come off of the insulin, and then you can work at it. Otherwise, when you're on insulin, they want it to run a little higher because they don't want any risk. If blood sugars get too low, you can die. And so it's more of a balancing act with the insulin. But work to come off of it if you can. Work closely with your physicians. So she was an amazing lady.
Karen, how long did it, what time frame was the loss of weight of 70 pounds?
I don't know how long before our program that she had started working on it. I think her sister died, was it 6 or 8 months?
6 months, it sticks in my mind.
And then our program was, we had a 6-month follow-up. And so that last A1C and weight was at the 6-month follow-up.
Probably would have been over about a year. Okay. ReversingDiabetes.org makes the statement at their website, type 2 diabetes is known as a lifestyle disease sustained by a culture that promotes inactivity and unhealthy food choices, all leading to weight gain and obesity, the leading cause of type 2 diabetes. Indeed, 80% of the overweight will develop diabetes. So you don't have to be overweight to get diabetes, but it helps. So, how fats affect diabetes? Well, we'll learn that there are multiple ways that this happens. But when you have increased fat that develops in the muscle, you have increased insulin resistance, and it interferes with glucose transport into the cell. When you have increased fat in the liver, you have increased liver insulin resistance, which transfers to whole body insulin resistance, and it interferes with fasting blood glucose regulation. So it's fairly easy to lose the fat out of the liver. So the morning, your fasting sugar in the morning will correct before just about anything outside of the blood pressure. And then in the pancreas, it causes an overproduction of insulin, and fat is actually, there's a fat that has been implicated in beta cell death, a particular fat that causes beta cell death. And so we're going to focus in on that in just a little bit. But as the beta cells begin to die off, then your insulin levels will drop. And your doctor tests that, and eventually he starts you on insulin. But you have to understand, if you're insulin resistant, that means your body needs more insulin to keep the blood sugar down. But if your body needs more insulin as you're producing those higher levels of insulin, you can't see that you're sick. You can't see the insulin resistance that you've developed, but it takes a big toll on your organs throughout your body, and especially in the pancreas. So, can you live? By the time most people are diagnosed with diabetes, they only have 50% of their pancreatic function left. And so the question is, can you live with 50% of the pancreas? And the answer is yes, but you've got to change the lifestyle. And the answer is not just doom and gloom that you have to live with 50% the rest of your life. We've known for years that losing beta cells was associated with the onset of diabetes. But they didn't know that beta cells can be regenerated. Now we know that beta cells can be regenerated, and so scientists are telling us if you will reverse your type 2 diabetes, and you can keep it reversed for 2 years, the pancreas will regain its normal shape We call, in medical science, we call that morphology, and its function. That means the digestive enzymes, the insulin levels, the other hormones that it puts off, all return to normal in about 2 years. So, is it a goal worth pursuing? Absolutely. And those people that reverse their diabetes basically fall back into the category of a non-diabetic type person, as far as lifespan and things like that goes. So this is good news. And if you religiously will follow the type of lifestyle that we are advocating in order to keep your gut microbiome balanced, keep inflammation down, and things like that, they have studied people that have done just that, and they live an average of 13 and a half years longer than the general population. But they're not getting older and older. They're actually getting older more slowly. You follow my drift? Instead of becoming more and more disabled with age, they may be chronologically aging, but their body is not aging as rapidly. So they live longer, more healthy, more productive lifestyles. To me, that's good news. I mean, it's a win-win kind of situation. So what we've learned over the years is a high-fat diet causes increased insulin resistance. So back in 1927, Dr. J.S. Sweeney did a study. He took medical students and he put them on several different diets ranging from high carbohydrate to high fat. And then partway through the study, he would change these diets out, and he studied the people. And what he discovered was when he changed somebody to a high-fat diet, within a very short period of time, they had significantly increased insulin resistance. And so type 2 diabetes is a problem of insulin resistance. So a high-fat diet is not the thing to do. Now, most of you have probably heard of the Atkins-type diets, the South Beach diet, the paleo diet, which are all high-fat diets. You eat the real high-fat diet, you eat the fat bombs and things like that, and you can put your body into a ketosis, and you will lose weight. Everybody does. They first lose quite a bit of water, and then they begin burning the fat, and so the fat will come off at great risk, by the way, I might say. And there's some additional studies that I'm going to show you next week. I beg people not to do the Atkins diet because it's so unhealthful and it significantly increases your risk of dying. So it's not a good approach. Whereas this diet significantly lowers your risk of dying, and so it's just like win-win. Win-win. So we've chosen what science says is the very best, and we call this not evidence-based, but we call it best practices. This is a best practices program. So what we have learned over the years is fats and carbohydrates are mutually exclusive fuels. So if you go out and you eat a high-fat diet, the fat, you take it into your stomach, the fat is absorbed into the lymphatic system. Anyone here not know what the lymphatic system is? Okay, well, in your body you have the veins and arteries which circulate blood. And then there's another set of vessels that collect tissue fluid. And it drains it back into the superior vena cava, I believe it is. And, it remixes tissue fluid with the blood. Well, the fats are absorbed into the lymphatic system first. And as the body recognizes that the fat content in the lymph is going up. And so what it does is it secretes enzymes to help you digest and metabolize fats. But at the same time, it downregulates all those enzymes that will help you to metabolize carbohydrates. So it makes you carbohydrate intolerant. On the flip side, if you can get to fat content less than 15% when you eat a meal, then your carbohydrates are absorbed first, and the body upregulates the enzymes that are associated with carbohydrate metabolism, and you become much more carbohydrate tolerant. The carbohydrates won't spike your sugars. I've seen people in just a couple days significantly lower their blood sugars because they lowered their fat content 2 days before. You eat a high-fat meal, your blood sugar is going to run high for 2 more days. You eat a low-fat meal continually, and blood sugars will come right on down. So those of you that are struggling with blood sugars at this point, this is one of the things you can do. Now, so fat inhibits glucose transport. And if you remove the fat, then glucose intolerance is reduced. So they took, they did what we call an adolescent fat study. And they took these adolescents, put them in a hospital, and gave them an infusion of fats overnight. The next morning, they tested their insulin resistance. All of the adolescents had high levels of insulin resistance. Then they gave them a medication that would help get the fat, lower the fat in the blood, and within just a few hours, their glucose tolerance goes way up. Fat, the fat intolerance. The fat level comes down and your carbohydrate tolerance goes up. So, let's talk about the history of dietary fats. Prior to 1910, the fats we ate were primarily butter, tallow, which is beef fat, and lard, which is pork fat. And then what changed in 1910? Well, there was a company came along and started producing a product. They said it's 99 and 44/100% pure. Ivory soap. They started producing ivory soap. And when you make soap, you take the fat, usually it's fat renderings from the animals that you slaughter. You take the fat, you throw the lye in, and the lye causes the nature of the fat to change. We call it a saponification reaction, in case you needed to know. That's on the test, by the way. Anyway, this product just started flying off the shelves because people liked it. I mean, it was better than Grandma's lye soap that she cooked in the kettle on the backyard. I mean, this was good stuff. People did dishes with it. They washed their clothes in it. They took baths in it. They used it for all sorts of stuff. And so Procter & Gamble started scouring the slaughterhouses all up and down the Mississippi River looking for every bit of fat renderings they could get from these slaughterhouses, and they just couldn't find enough fat. Well, so they started looking for other sources of fat, and they finally found it in the cotton milling industry. Cotton seeds, when you crush the cotton seeds, it's fairly easy to get the oil out. And so you can press it real hard, and this oil comes out, and they were able to get enough fat to make more soap with. But there was a problem. The fats that were made from cottonseed oil was not as good as the fat from animal renderings. The cottonseed oil would go rancid very rapidly at room temperature. And so who wants to buy a rancid soap? Nobody. Well, it was around 1910 that this was going on, and they learned that there was a process that had been patented in Europe to change a liquid soap into a solid. And so they put a man on a boat and sent him over to Europe, and he bought the patent, returned it back to the United States, and within less than 2 years, they had a plant up operating full capacity, changing liquid soap into a vegetable shortening, and now, voila, no more problem with the soap. The soap would stay stable at room temperatures for a long period of time, would not become rancid, and so now they could make their soap out of the cottonseed oil, and everything was fine and wonderful. Well, that started one of the biggest advertising campaigns in all of human history. In fact, that campaign went on from the early 19-teens clear up into the 1960s. And it was a campaign to get people to eat partially hydrogenated vegetable shortenings. They decided that these things were just ever so good. In fact, they loaded semi-truckloads full of 2.5-pound cans of shortening, vegetable shortening, and they would give them away to housewives, and the housewives took them and they put them on the pantry shelves and wouldn't use it. They said, that stuff's not helpful. I'd far rather be feeding my family tallow or lard, making my biscuits out of lard than using that stuff. And so, but that all changed with the war. When the men went off to war, mother was left at home. A lot of the mothers went out and worked. It was hard to make a living. It was hard to keep food on the table. The families were large. There were lots of stresses. And so moms began opening up the can of vegetable shortening, and they made their biscuits out of them, and they tasted good, and no one complained, and their health seemed to be pretty good, and it was a lot cheaper than the butter or the lard or the tallow, and so they just began making the switch. And you've heard some of those campaigns, you know, it's not nice to fool Mother Nature. Remember that ad from the 1960s? Or whatever. You know, that was part of this campaign still, to feed people more hydrogenated vegetable shortening. So in the 1940s, it was linked to cancer, higher risk of cancer. In the 1950s, it was linked to cardiovascular disease, stroke, immune system disorders, inflammation, increased insulin resistance. By the 1980s, public outcry rose against the stuff, but the government still was really slow to take any kind of action. But because of public pressure, finally, they banned its use in the food industry to put partially hydrogenated vegetable shortenings in your food as of January 1, 2018, unless the food manufacturer applied for a hardship exception. So even though we know it's bad for us, it's still in a lot of the foods we eat. And if you find something that says partially hydrogenated vegetable shortening, put it back and don't eat it because it makes diabetes worse. We still find it in our food supplies pretty widely available in fried foods, things like donuts or restaurant fried foods, you know, those French fries or other things, cakes, cookies, pie crusts, frozen pizzas, all these kind of things typically have partially hydrogenated vegetable shortening in them. And it's not really a good food. Now let's talk about how industrial oils are produced. We're talking about seed oils here, and you know, these vegetable oils. So what they do is they take the product that is going to give them the oil, and they crush it, grind it up. After they have it all crushed, then they add a petroleum distillate called hexane. And the hexane dissolves the fat, puts it in solution, Then they drain the hexane off, and with it goes the fat. They evaporate the hexane, and what you have left is a black, tarry substance, and it looks nasty and it tastes nasty, so they have to purify it. So they filter it, they bleach it, they deodorize it, and in the process of doing that, they heat that up above the flash point of the oil. So it's heated up to about 1,200 degrees. And when it gets that hot, it actually changes the nature of the fat. So the fat now becomes very inflammatory. It causes inflammation. And one of the causes of diabetes happens to be inflammation. So this food, the nature of the food has been changed from its natural form now, which would be wholesome and healthful for you. And now you get it that's been industrially produced, and it is inflammatory. And it makes diabetes worse. So, benefit to health is considered very controversial. So, what is the effect of a high-fat diet on diabetes? Well, it increases insulin resistance. That means it's making your diabetes worse. It inhibits glucose transport, so the glucose can't get out of the blood into the cell as effectively, and it decreases the effectiveness of your insulin. On the cardiovascular system, if you're consuming high amounts of oil, it acts like Velcro on the linings of your arteries. You know how Velcro sticks to stuff? Well, this will stick to the cholesterol as it moves through, and it causes the cholesterol to adhere to the linings of your arteries. Now, one of the things that we teach in this class is you need to eat anti-inflammatory foods. And one of those are like the green stuff, the green leafies. And they're not very popular in some circles, but they are very healthful. And one of the things that they do is they slick up the inside of your arteries, like makes it like Teflon. And so the cholesterol that you do have in your arteries just slides right on through, real slick. It's like a slippy slide with lots of water running on it, just really slick them. Okay, so it makes the arteries like Teflon, and so therefore you have a decrease in your cardiovascular disease. Well, I like to think of the fats as being an inverted pyramid kind of thing, the fats continuum. What you need to eat the most of are whole food fats. Now, these fats haven't been industrially processed. They haven't had the nature of the molecule changed. So they're healing. They're very healing to you. So fats, we all need fats because certain vitamins and things like that are transported by fats. There's a reason for that. And then as we go down the list, then the most healthful fats outside of the whole food fats. By the way, whole food fats would be things like foods that contain a lot of fat in them. What? Okay, avocados is a real good one. Walnuts is another one. You take olives, yes, another real good one. Can you think of other foods that are high in fat? You mash them. What about peanuts? Peanuts is another very good high fat. Most of the seeds, things like your chia seeds, but sunflower seeds. You can take sunflower seeds, crush them, sesame seeds, yes. All of those are whole food fats. So those would be the best fats to be eating. And they're very healing for people with diabetes if you're eating them in that form. Cold-pressed fats would be the next ones. These are fats that are made without heating. Like you take the olive oil and you crush the olive oil. If you're getting the genuine thing, the first pressing of the oil is called extra virgin olive oil, and that would be a cold-pressed olive oil. It has not been chemically altered by heating it, and so it's a very good alternative, though it is not as good as the whole food fats. Why is that? Because you've removed the fiber. You've removed the matrix that it was in. You need that matrix. You also need the vitamins and the minerals and other things that God has packaged in that food to help you metabolize it. It's just like sugar. If you don't, when you're eating the sugar has been a refined food product. They've taken all the nourishment out of there that was in the original plant, whether it was the sugar beet or the sugar cane or whatever. They've reduced it down to where they have just sucrose left. Everything that you need to metabolize it is gone. Where do you get it from? Well, you have to get it from somewhere, so you rob your body of the stores that you've built up for other purposes to help you metabolize the sugar. Same things happens with the fat here. So we need that. Anyway, moving on down, then we have monounsaturated fats. These would be like flaxseed oil. That's usually in the refrigerator section of your produce market. You'll have olive oil, canola oil, safflower, peanut oil. Those are contain high amounts of monounsaturated fats. And that just simply refers to the amount of double bonds between chemical molecules. But they're typically they're liquid fats at room temperature. But if you chill them in the refrigerator, they may congeal. Okay? So you know if you make a dressing out of olive oil and then you refrigerate it, when you pull it out of the refrigerator, have you ever done that? It's pretty much congealed, sets up like butter. I know you have. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, good stuff. And then, but remember, these oils now are a refined food product, and it requires additional nutrients to metabolize them. So it's best if we eat them in the natural state. But let's move on down now. We've talked about, come down to monounsaturated fats on that pyramid. Next level is polyunsaturated fats. Now we're talking things like corn. Now your monounsaturated fats, you don't want to use those for frying. They're not stable at high temperatures. But if you have to fry something, then you want to use, oh yes, I need to advance that, sorry. You need to use a polyunsaturated fat. Something like corn oil, cottonseed oil, peanut oil. And guys, there are other ways to cook foods besides fried. When I worked in the hospital, I never say anything about what I see on someone's plate when I'm in a restaurant or when I'm at a meal or anything like that. I'm safe to be around. I don't talk about your food. We all try to eat to live, okay? But I would see these people go through line. And it would make my hair curly to see what they put on their plates. They would have fried chicken fingers. They would have fried corn bites. They would put on fried jalapeno poppers. They would get fried potatoes, French fries, you know. And sometimes they would add a fifth food like fried okra. Oh, I'm going to eat healthy today. I eat my vegetables, right? Come on. If it ain't fried, it ain't food, right? We live in the deep South. We don't do things like them Yankees do. You know that. That's why the Mississippi River Valley is leading the obesity epidemic in the United States. It's a cultural thing. If it ain't Southern fried food, it ain't food. Home cooking. Mabel's home cooking, whatever. Okay. How do we do better? Well, let's talk about some of those things. One of the things we can do, on this fats continuum, if you have been using vegetable shortening to make your biscuits, I'm begging you today, stop. Use something else. So if you moved up, let's say you moved up and you say, okay, I'm going to use peanut oil instead of hydrogenated vegetable shortening. Will you improve your health? The answer is absolutely yes. You will improve your health because of the level of inflammation that these fats cause. The partially hydrogenated are worse than the saturated fats. Okay, so yes, you will improve your health. If you change from using partially hydrogenated vegetable shortening to using lard again, would you improve your health? the answer would be yes, you would improve your health. But if I went and I said, okay, I'm going to reduce the fat in my biscuits, but I'm going to try one of the monounsaturated fats, or I'm going to try a whole food fat. Karen makes a granola at home. She used to, you know what granola is? Granola cereal, okay, everybody? Okay, Karen makes her own homemade granola. And one of the things that our recipe used to call for was oil. And so she'd put in so much oil, into the recipe. Well, she tried leaving it out, and it's like eating shoe leather. You need some kind of fats to make the grains a little more chewable. So then she started doing, what was it? Is it almonds you use? She'll blend up almonds with her other liquids, blends up the almonds until they're like liquid, and pours that on there. And the fat in the almonds does the same thing. And now the granola is palatable again. We learned that, There are things we can do to improve, but if we can move higher on this list, in almost any recipe, you can cut the amount of fat in your recipe by 50% without dangerously altering the recipe in most instances. Will not work in all. But then going further down the fats continuum, we have saturated fats. Problem with saturated fats is they all cause inflammation. They all worsen cardiovascular disease, and they increase insulin resistance. That means they're making diabetes worse. And they're found in animal products. So it's not just the industrially produced fats that are causing the problem. It's the saturated fats as well. And then the worst of all are the trans fats. So we need to start by substituting things for trans fats and saturated fats. And there are studies that indicate actually that it's the saturated fats that cause beta cell death in the kidneys. I mean in the pancreas, excuse me. Saturated fats are implicated in beta cell death. So if we can decrease the amount of fats in our diet, it'll help. You can put it on your body, and if you're going to put it in your body, I recommend that you use the whole food fat. Instead of using a refined coconut oil, use the coconut itself. You can blend it up. You have the fiber, you have the nutrients, you have the other things with it then that God packaged it with. Have you ever tried to eat a lot of fresh coconut? Yeah. It's not real sweet. Yeah, it's not real sweet. Even if you get the sweetened, if you're getting the fresh nut and breaking it open, that it's okay to eat that. But I've taken a stance against the coconut oil. Some people tout it as being very good, that this reduces your diabetes risk and helps people get over diabetes. I don't think I'm not satisfied that the studies are conclusive. There have been a lot of studies that have been done about fats and the diet. And, here's just a word of caution. Back in the 1980s, President Reagan privatized research in America. And a lot of things went south as far as American research goes. And one of those things that happened, there was a study done, I think it was in 2016, where they were comparing a high-fat diet with a low-fat diet, and they found no appreciable difference in the results, and so they used that. It became a landmark study that everybody is referring to, and they're saying, well, fats don't make a difference in diabetes. You can eat high-fat diet, and it's all is good. There was a high-profile scientist, though, in Australia that first rang the bell on this, because he got into the study and he started looking at how it was set up and how they manipulated the studies. And they were comparing a 34% fat diet, which is the standard American diet, it's 34%, with what they called a low-fat diet, which was 25%. Well, 25% diet is not a low-fat diet. And so when you had no appreciable differences in the two, then what of it? Well, everybody's quoting that thing. If you take and compare a high-fat diet like the standard American diet, 34%, with a 15%, which would be a truly low-fat diet, the results are absolutely amazing. So, okay, moving on. What they discovered there. The standard American diet would be a diet that is high in red and processed meats, prepackaged foods, butter, candy, sweets, fried foods, conventionally raised animals, high-fat dairy, eggs, and refined grains, potatoes, and corn. And the whole food plant-based, on the other hand, would be an example of a very low-fat diet, which would consist of green leafy vegetables, colorful vegetables, beans, legumes, fruits, starchy vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And so hang on just a second here. This type diet, though, contains the optimal level of fat. So how might we accomplish something like that if if we start where we are? Well, there's lots of ways to reduce the amount of fat in the diet we eat. Number one, you can roast in the oven. Now, I had never had roasted vegetables in the oven until we started down this road. And one day, somebody exposed me to them. Oh, I'm a diehard person now. I love roasted vegetables. I mean, you take those fresh vegetables, fresh broccoli, fresh cauliflower, take some potatoes, take some parsnips, carrots, you chunk them up in big chunks, put some big chunks of onions in with it, like an onion cut 8 ways. You put those big chunks in there with it, put it in a hot 400-degree oven, roast it for 20, 25, 30 minutes, and pull them out, just starting to brown a little bit. Oh, man. Like candy. You bet it is so good. You compare that. So many people, they try to cook vegetables, and I guess they're meaning well, but if you've been raised on a meat and potatoes diet and you don't know how to do it, you don't know that when you put green beans in water and boil them, what you've done is you just boiled the flavor, the vitamins, the minerals, and the nutrients out of the green beans. You pour off the water in the kitchen sink and serve the residue to people, and they don't like it. Well, it's no wonder I don't either. They take in the hospital, great place to go for good food, right? They take carrots. I don't know how you can ruin a carrot, but they take carrots and they would boil these carrots and pour off the water. I mean, they serve them. And they're floating in this carrot broth. And they put them on my plate, and I go to start eating them, and it's like eating soggy balsa wood. Guys, this is not good food. You take that same carrot, you cook it waterlessly. Minimal water, low temperature cooking, 20 to 30 minutes on a very low stove. Yeah, I like steamed carrot. It's tender, it's gorgeous. Pull it out, it's full of flavor. It's just yummy to eat. Just a world of difference between the two. So I'm not talking about health deform here. I'm talking about a health reform. We're reforming our diet. We're adding in different ways of eating foods, but we've got to learn how to cook them. I remember my brother-in-law was trying to teach me how to grill. And he said, you just got to put the meat on the grill and burn it. Just put it on and burn it. Everybody has to burn it a few times before they learn how to cook it. Well, I don't know that that was good instruction, but guys, you just got to try to keep trying to cook the vegetables. When you learn how to cook them, I guarantee they're going to go down a whole lot better. So keep trying new recipes. Don't give up. This is a process. And Karen can tell you, we've had many times that we have not appreciated the efforts that she made. You know, there's sometimes we just look at what we have to eat and I think it's time to go to the restaurant. Oh, yeah, like that Thanksgiving time, she tried to make a pumpkin pie. Oh, this pumpkin pie was supposed to be really healthful, and you know, she had done a good job. It looked great. She served it to all the guests, and just bad news. So you're going to have some flops. Don't let that slow you down. Keep trying, because you know the recipes in the back of the book. Have you tried any of those? Anyone tried recipes in the back of the book yet? After the green page. Yes. We got a couple of yeses here. Three yeses. Was it bad or was it good? Good. Delicious. Yes. And I'm telling you, every one of those recipes pretty much has been tried on the public. And if it ends up in the trash can, we don't publish it. So we've had some things that we liked and other people didn't like them, so we said no. But these really are good transition foods. So you know, you won't go wrong, I don't think, if you try some of them. Okay. Yes.
Have you found any information that's negative in the use of air fryers?
Have I found any information, she's asking, that's negative in the use of an air fryer? The answer is no. Have at it. It's a good way to cook your food. Okay? Great idea. Yeah, air fryer is wonderful. It's like roasting, you know, convection roasting in your oven is basically the same thing, only you do it on the countertop instead of the oven. You're not heating the whole kitchen, and for a lot of people that works out better. Yeah, how can you flavor your food? You know, a lot of people, they cook green beans, and first thing you do is you throw in the ham hock to flavor the green beans, right? What do you do if you don't have a ham hock to put in the beans? Can you flavor the beans well? Yes. What do you do, John? Crushed red flakes. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Anybody else have an idea? Pardon me? Dill. Dill is a great thing. Yes, I agree with you. I've had it that way. Lemon juice and raw onions. Now she's talking my language. Garlic. Yes. Okay. Okay. All right. So now we're learning ways that we can fix these foods so they taste good. Yeah, you can season with herbs. In fact, that's on our list up here. Rosemary, onions, garlic. Karen has a book all about seasoning with herbs. The Savory Way, I think it is. She's had it for years. I don't know if it's still published or not, but you can find books on seasoning with herbs. It's a great way to go. Expand the herb section of your kitchen, and I don't think you'll be sorry. Use substitutions for fat. Did you know in most recipes, not all recipes, but in many recipes, you can simply substitute applesauce for the oil, and your family won't know the difference. Or if it's a dark thing like a chocolate cake, you can substitute prune puree, pureed prunes, cooked prunes, in place of the oil. Or you can use black beans, yes. You can use beans in just about anything. If it's a white something you're cooking, use something like the white cannellini beans, or you can grate northern beans, something like that. You could use bean puree instead. Fruit spreads instead of margarine. Now that's one of the things that we do at home. We get the fruit spreads that are just fruit spreads, fruit concentrates. no added sugars, and we use that instead. And for our sandwiches, we don't use very much mayonnaise. We probably use, 3 or 4 jars of mayonnaise in our home for a whole year. But most of the time it'll be something like, if we're making a sandwich, we'll spread it with hummus before we put our lettuce, tomatoes, and other goodies on there, whatever it's going to be. You know, your luncheon slices, whatever you're doing. So anyway, very interesting graph here. I'd like you to look at it carefully because this stuff was published. Yes, I'm sorry.
Before you go forward, do you have an opinion on textured vegetable protein?
Do I have an opinion on textured vegetable protein?
Like crumble?
Yes, Yeah, I do. We have something that's called the food choice list that we talk about. Okay, that's next week. We're going to go over that. And textured vegetable protein is about halfway down the list. So it's sort of a neutral food. It's a good transition food if somebody's trying to eat less of the red meats. And, it can be very good. However, there is a wide spectrum within the family of textured vegetable proteins. You can have some that are actually fairly healthful, and you can have some that are awful. So, it may be a plant-based food, and it does have some fiber in it, but it has more food additives than you can shake a stick at. So read your labels when you're going, when you're reading the textured vegetable food proteins.
Tea itself is a good thing, but when you get off and look at things like Impossible Burgers and that's a whole different.
Yeah, the Impossible Burgers are very manufactured, and there are some alternative meat companies that make things like hot dogs or cutlets or vegetable steaks and things of that nature that are processed type meats, meat substitutes. And some of them are okay, and some of them have a lot of food additives in it. So you just got to try to be judicious as you make your choice for those things. But as far as, you can actually increase the nutrient content of your diet, and you can decrease your risk of diabetes by substituting servings of red meat with servings of textured vegetable protein. So it does have some very positive benefits. Just be careful as you're making your choices, as you're shopping for them.
You don't eat red meat, and then you don't eat much textured vegetable protein. What else do you eat other than honey, fruit, vegetables?
Yeah, actually, what I would like you to do is start looking for whole food, plant-based entrees. And so go to your search engine on your computer and search for whole food, plant-based entrees. That way you're getting the high fiber content that you need. You're also not getting the refined oils that are going to be a problem. You're getting the type foods that are going to be anti-inflammatory, and it's going to be very nourishing. And you're going to find thousands of colorful recipes that would be delightful to try. So what I'd like you to find is make a list of what works in your home. You need 10 entrees that work well in your home. To change a lifestyle, you've got to have 10 new entrees. So that's where I would like you to get, is do that. So then you'll be getting the things that will reverse diabetes and keep it sustainably reversed. What about jackfruit? Oh, I think that jackfruit can make a delightful thing. You know, those of you that have never had jackfruit, it's a fruit. Typically you get it and it's canned in brine, so you have to wash it to remove some of the brine. But then you can flavor it with barbecue sauce, and it'll taste almost exactly. I mean, a lot of people can't, if you're a good cook, a lot of people can't tell the difference between jackfruit and pulled pork. Oh, really? Same texture. Same texture. You put it on a burger bun and you wouldn't know. A lot of people don't know the difference between. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, the jackfruits themselves are yes, you can get canned or you can get it in packages. She says at Publix they have it. Have it at Publix, or you can buy it online, and just have it delivered to your doorstep. Yes.
So John's got a question about barbecue sauce. Do they make it? Do they have a healthy barbecue sauce so it's not high fat? Or not a lot of times?
Yeah, you can get one that's not high fructose corn syrup. Yes. Yeah, you'll have to read. You may have to shop at different stores to find them, but I have found a few. Now it's going to have sugar in it too, but you're not going to be eating jackfruit sandwiches every day. If you're eating something that has a little sugar in it, guys, don't sweat the small stuff occasionally. It's what happens regularly that's the problem. But what I want you to do is, if you do have something sweet, you need to make sure that you're getting a lot of fiber. Okay? Okay? Because the fiber is the antidote for fructose. And so we're talking about rebalancing, reordering some of this stuff, okay? I'm not saying don't ever have anything sweet. Make sure you're getting the high fiber. Okay? Is that hard to do? A little bit. Who said that? That was honest. We love you. We love you. That's why we're here. We're all doing this together, okay? All right. Now, this graph I was going to point out. If you'll look at the little diamonds up there, the decreasing line up there on the chart, you'll notice that diamond is the rate of diabetes. Back in 1925, they looked at various nations and the amount of fat and the amount of carbohydrates in the diets of various nations. So you'll notice the first nation listed up there is the United States of America. And if you'll look at the light gray bars represent the amount of fat in the diet. And you'll notice as the amount of fat in the diet decreases, what happens to the rate of diabetes? It also decreases. What's the first thing that we do when people have a diagnosis of diabetes? First thing we tell them, you got to cut your carbs. And that means you have to eat more what? Protein, and you have to eat more fat. And dairy. They tell you to eat low-fat dairy, right? Okay? So what you're doing is you're increasing the fat content of your diet. And so the evidence indicates that what you're doing is you're making their prophecy that you'll have diabetes the rest of your life, you're making it a self-fulfilling prophecy. It will cause you to have lower blood sugars. But when you're focusing on the blood sugar, you're not focusing on the underlying cause. And the underlying cause is the gut dysbiosis and the increased insulin resistance, which is caused because of high fat, and it's caused because of inflammation, and it's driven by low fiber in the diet and high fat in the diet. So we got to do something to correct this. By the way, if you look at the dark gray bars, that's the amount of carbohydrate in the diet. So what happens to the rate of diabetes when the amount of carbohydrate in the diet increases? Carbohydrates go up, diabetes goes down. But what you've got to do is you have to make sure that the carbohydrates that you're eating are in a high fiber matrix. When it's in a high fiber matrix and you're eating low fat, your carbohydrate tolerance goes up. And yeah, you're eating the carbohydrates, but you're able to metabolize them now. Isn't that beautiful? Stuff they didn't tell you in school about diabetes. Yes, ma'am. Okay, the first one's the United States of America. The second one is Holland. And then there is England and Wales. And then you have Scotland, Italy, and Japan. Yep. So Japan had the lowest instance of diabetes in the world until they started adopting the American diet. They went over there and started building American restaurants, and people started eating fast foods. And now what do you think is happening to the rate of diabetes in Japan? It's rapidly approaching the rate of diabetes in the United States. So, conclusion. What we need to do is we need to eat whole food fats and avoid the added fats. This is really important. So eat nuts and seeds in moderation. Search for new whole food, plant-based type recipes because that's going to do the right number on your microbiome. It's going to do the right number on decreasing inflammation. Use oils and fats sparingly. Karen typically buys, what is it, an 8 or 10 ounce bottle of olive oil, which will last her several months. And, to buy something like canola oil or whatever, it just,
But if you go online to Calpine or Amazon or something, you can buy this thing that you can put olive oil in and you can spray it so you don't get it starched.
Yes, a spritzer, Right, and you can actually purchase olive oil Pam too.
Yeah.
Just spray it on, it's there under pressure. Not quite as good maybe as just the olive oil spritzer, but
Okay, I got a question, this low oil, how about if you make bread, you're using applesauce instead of oil? Or do you use any oil when you make homemade bread?
I use oil because the apple.
Do you use,
I'm using oil because it just dried it out so much to use the applesauce, so I went back to using oil.
you went back to using oil?
right. Yeah, but overall, the oils in our diet are very, very small.
Okay.
So, and what she uses most of the time is olive oil.
Olive oil to make that bread.
Yes, ma'am.
Is sourdough bread better for you than wheat bread?
That's is sour better for you than wheat bread. So some of the authorities that I have read say yes.
Only because of the
It partially digests, the bacteria that are in there partially digest the starches, and so it won't spike your blood sugar as much. I'm not totally convinced that it's a really good food source because it's been fermented, but we've eaten sourdough breads for years. And so it's a time-honored bread. I really can't say a whole lot about it. My personal preference is I don't care a whole lot for sourdough breads. Sometimes a ciabatta roll with a hot bowl of soup is really good. That being said, ciabatta rolls typically are sourdough. But
Now, the sourdough bread you're talking about, which is fermented, you can also make sourdough bread out of whole grain,
yes, you can.
which is going to be, the nutrient level is going to be much better
Yes.
than a processed.
Yes. And so that would be what I'd recommend. But remember, too, that wheat is the only food which contains amylopectin A. And amylopectin A causes an increased insulin release. So your insulin levels are going to be higher after the meal if you're eating wheat. So if you're trying to lose weight, it's a good idea to steer away from the low wheat options. Low wheat options doesn't mean you have to be totally no bread. Consider, for instance, a 21 grain bread. You're substituting other grains for wheat, and so you're getting a much lower level of amylopectin A in your multigrain bread than what you would have in just a wheat loaf.
Okay, I have another question, a couple questions. Is the making whole wheat bread, does that increase also inflammation? Eating inflammation when you consume?
No, the whole grain bread is a very nutritious type food, and it's something I would not recommend generally that a person leave out of their diet because it makes it hard to eat. in our society. So I would leave the whole grain breads in, but the refined grains are the ones that are inflammatory because they have the bran, the nutrition that goes along with that got packaged with it. It's removed that, and so it becomes pro-inflammatory. Therefore, it drives diabetes and makes your diabetes worse. So it's the white grain. It's the processed grain. And that's why I'm down on pasta. I'm down on pasta because it's made out of the white flour, white semolina flour. It's a white semolina wheat they make it out of. But it's pro-inflammatory. It is not as inflammatory as white bread. You talk about your bread, the way you process it, you add the yeast in there, it fills up, expands it. You have all the little holes, and those little holes in there just suck up all kinds of moisture, which includes digestive juices. So when you eat that, you make it very available to the amylase, the digestive juice that the pancreas puts out and that's put out in your saliva. So it starts breaking off those sugar molecules real rapidly. With pasta, the pasta doesn't do that because it's more concentrated. It's pressed together instead of expanded with multiple air bubbles. Therefore, it's going to break it down much more slowly. It's less inflammatory that way. So the pasta is a better choice than the bread, than white bread. But the whole grain bread is still going to be spike sugar more than pasta would. So, you sort of got to think carefully about your foods. How does this happen? But wheat is a good source, but the problem with wheat is it does contain amylopectin A, which drives your insulin levels up. It's going to make you have a more difficult time losing weight if you're eating wheat because your insulin level's higher. That's the reason. If you eat wheat and you're doing more walking after the meals, you can probably compensate for it. So instead of walking 20 minutes, you walk 30 minutes if you've eaten wheat for your meal.
So the best would be to be a sprouted grain.
Sprouted grains are a good source, yes. Yes. Yes.
Even better yet.
Yes.
A sprouted grain, you can get sprouted wheat and different sprouted grains, which
Right.
chemically is totally different, and it's your body
Right.
digests it, breaks
Right.
it down, and it's much
Right.
better.
Right. It's a better option. Okay, now let's see. I think that we're ready for Debbie, let's go ahead and do the drawing. Okay, we'll see if it did any good for Lisa. Maybe she's going to win 2 things tonight. And by the way, I want to put a plug in for the stuff she has over here. She has several things, servings of lasagna, which look great. But she's got a couple cookbooks. One is called The Full Plate Diet. There are 8 recipes, I think, in that one. And they're ones that are just so flexible for anybody's kitchen. I love them. There's a vegetable soup, there's a pizza, there's a salad, there's a pasta salad, there's a smoothie, and whatever. Anyway, so that book is good. The other cookbook that she has up here is called From Plant to Plate, Diabetes Edition. That, we're cookbook poor at our house. We have bought hundreds of dollars worth of cookbooks looking for the right cookbook for a diabetes reversal program. This is the one. This was the one. It was put out by Dr. Wes Youngberg and his group, and I just can't say enough good about the work that they did to put into that book. So, yes, they do. They certainly do. Forks over knives. Forks over surgical knives. Good movie too, yes. Okay. All right.
Did everybody get one of these handouts of water last week?
No,
So,
And one more back here.
the recipe that you have tonight
Good choice. Good choice.
If you try a recipe and you want it, and you really enjoy it and want to share, just bring it in. I'll get the coffee for everybody. 457.
Good for you. Good for you.
466.
Wait a second, I think that's my number, 64.
Must be in the way you're responding. Okay, the last one I'm going to do is the lasagna. So someone takes home with it. Got 4 of them. Let's read the numbers. 462,
462.
467,
Oh, yes.
460, one more. We'll have more cookbooks here, so if you didn't get one tonight, we'll probably get one later. 465.
All right. Boy, this is a winning table over here.
Here you go. I'm coming to you. Breakfast. Yeah, okay. Good job.
Oh, I've taken too much time, she said. Mike, are you going to have your feelings hurt?
Not at all.
Okay, guys, what we're going to do then,
Do they need to stand up?
next week we're going to talk about proteins that heal. So ask and it shall be given you, seek and ye shall find. We're going to seek next week and we'll get some answers. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Everyone that asketh receiveth, he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. That's God's promise for us. While we go to our coaching sessions, I want you to identify foods you've been eating which are high in saturated or trans fats. Any foods you've been eating that are high in saturated or trans fats. And then select foods you can substitute for those high fat ones. And what high fat foods do you have in your house? So that's room for discussion right there. Think through your pantry and your refrigerator and your freezer. And anyway, then write a SMART goal on how you plan to deal with those foods. So that's what we're going to work on.